My name is Giles Rickard and I work for the West Country Rivers Trust and I'm a Land and Fisheries Officer. Most of my work in the Foy catchment involves a mix of fisheries work such as fish population surveys, habitat enhancements and removing barriers to fish migration. And the other part of my role involves working with farmers and landowners in the catchment to reduce diffuse pollution. I think it's been noticeable that weather patterns have been quite unpredictable with varying rainfall patterns and unusual events. So last year in 2014 it was particularly dry summer, so we didn't have a lot of rain in many places until the end of September, early October, which also coincides with the end of the fishing season. So very few fish were caught during the fishing period due to the very low flows, so it had a direct impact on the quantity and amount of fishing available. On some of the small coastal streams, which you often get in Cornwall, you can get reduced fish numbers, particularly because you've only got a few small pools which fish can survive in, and often the water temperature raises much quicker in a small stream. So particularly in Cornwall and other lower-lying areas of the far southwest, we're certainly at risk to climate change and increasing water temperatures, particularly in the summer. And so some of the side tributaries and smaller streams, they're particularly at risk, so they're often the ones that suffer first, and you can get losses of certain species, so you may well get an invertebrate loss first, and sometimes after that trout losses as well. Compared to some of the bigger salmon fisheries in the north of the country, Cornwall is a much warmer and milder place, so we tend to feel the effects here first. In areas abroad, such as France and Spain, where they've got low populations of salmon, they're really at a critical stage where salmon may be lost in the next 20 years or so, and we may well need to face reality here that we may lose salmon or have much reduced numbers of salmon within the next 50 years. Some of the rivers locally and in South Devon, they've suffered from fungal disease last year in 2014, which can often be associated with low flows or low summer flows. And low summer flows also mean that fish often have to wait in the estuary for a long time, or wait below weirs or dams and impoundments, then at high risk of predation, and they also can over time run out of reserves and resources as they don't feed within fresh water. The Foy catchment is slightly different to artificial because it has a couple of strategic reservoirs, including Colliford and Sibleyback. They have a summer water release there to meet demand, so it does actually help compensate low flows in the summer. It's a really interesting and pretty catchment. In the lower parts, it's characterised by gentle slopes and the river appears a bit slow and meandering. Some of my favourite spots are a bit further up the catchment near Ashford Bridge and around the area, where I've been lucky enough to catch a couple of salmon before. It's a particularly attractive spot, very Cornish, tree-lined and quiet. And above that, people don't tend to fish there much these days, but up at Glytha Falls, it's particularly dramatic and very pretty up there as well. However, it's very difficult to fish, but there are a few old locals there who still know how to fish it very well.